All right, hi guys, it's Rory Winters here from Edge of the Box Mentoring. I'm talking with a former teammate of mine back in the U team, Matty Mainwaring. He's had a great career in football, transferred to boxing, which we'll go into more depth with. Matty, good to see you, mate. Been a long time.
How you doing, pal? Yeah, too long, mate, some might say.
It's been a long time. So let's go back to our time when we first met. Well, we must have been teenagers back at Preston North End.
Babies, mate.
Tell me your story. So you went from being, I think, 13, 14, joining North End, and then you went right through the youth team. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I started at Man U. I had about 4 or 5 years at Man U as a kid, and I had a couple of years in Sunday League. Ended up going to Preston at 15. I was offered a scholarship. I think that was around about the time I met you, in and around there. Did a 2-year scholar. And at the end of that scholarship, I think I had about 3 managers over 2 years. I think it was Paul Simpson. Billy Davies' sort of gang management staff taking me on, started the scholarship. He immediately went to Derby. At the end of that, so when he went to Derby, Paul Simpson took over and brought his own gang in, like happens at most clubs. It's the way it goes. Did 2 years with those, and at the end of that, towards the end of that, Paul Simpson got sacked. They had a run of bad results, and Alan Irvine came in, and that wasn't long before the end. It was about maybe a month or two before the end. Alan Irvine pretty much released all the second years, myself included. Yeah. I think he honoured a couple of contracts that were, lads that were sort of penciled for pros prior to getting a scholarship or whatever. And I went on trial at Stockport County, and they were just about to go up into the first division, so they were in the playoffs at the time. Facing Wycombe at Wembley. Went there, had a week or two trial, few reserve games against the likes of Bolton and City. Was offered a contract, and I'd say 80-90% of my professional career was at Stockport. Then ended up playing the first and second division. Had a spell in the conference. And it went from there. Yeah.
Can we just go back to that time at Preston? So I was released at 16 from North End. You went and did your YT. I went to Oldham. I'm sure we've played against each other a few times. How did that feel, the sort of elation of getting the contract, the youth team contract, the YT, and then 2 years, worked damn hard, we all know, like, that's a hard slog. You've probably moved into deep, and I know where it is. It's a big house. And then at the end of it, manager changes, you've grafted your arse off, and then it's just bang, released, not good enough, on a man who has never really seen you play. Doesn't really.
No.
How does that feel? How does it affect your mindset? How did you motivate yourself then to go to Stockport and impress enough to get a contract?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. So I think, like you say about being elated, getting a contract, that was one of the best days of my life. Getting a professional, a YTS. I remember exactly where I was. I remember the conversation when I got one. It was off the back of playing against United's reserves. I was only under 16. I was thrown in for the second half against United's reserves at the Cliff. I had a pretty good game, for say so myself. I held my own, and I was pulled in the next morning and offered a YTS. And I remember me and my dad, because we've worked for years, me and my dad. So, my dad we've been at it since I could walk, kicking the ball around. We've worked and worked and worked. When all the other kids really are up to no good or doing what they want to do, we you know how it is, yeah. So we'd sacrifice. So that was a great sort of feeling for us both as a team, because that's what we were and that's what we are, me and my dad. So, total sort of. Totally elated, brilliant feeling. Felt like the best football in the world at the time. And in reality, we'd only really got a scholarship. We've got what we wanted, but in the grand scheme of things, we're stepping onto a massive ladder at the very bottom level.
And I think that's what you don't realise as a young lad, isn't it? You get your YT, and I guess at school you're the hero, and you think you've made it all. And it's a long road, right?
Of course, you do. You naturally do. You think I'm going on to great things here, and every kid's got the right to dream like that, and it is great. We had a great team of staff that believed in me. Kev Felwell, Glyn Salmon, they were working under Billy Davies at the time. Wonderful way of doing things. Two fellas that, in my opinion, Kev and Glyn, that could have done that job anywhere in the country, any academy. They were brilliant, and Preston were lucky to have them. They signed me and immediately went with, literally upon us returning as sort of brand new scholars, they went to Derby with Billy Davies. So, things happen. And And then, to get on to what you were saying, so 2 years go by, things are very different under a new set of sort of management staff. At the end of that, it was sort of, in a lot of ways, you can see it coming because, I agree, you didn't really look at us, didn't really watch us play, maybe once or twice, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really enough. And, in hindsight, I look at it and I think to myself, was I disappointed? I was, but I think one of my biggest sort of attributes as a player at the time was my mental strength, and it will always be that way. I think you're in the wrong game if you can't fight back from things like that, and it's totally inevitable that you're going to come across some hurdles at some point, and that was just one of them. That's the way I saw it, and it worked out well for me in the end because you're dropping down level to what was then the first division. Still a massive level. I'm still going into a big pool as a small fish, but a little bit closer to the first team because you're now a pro, and you end up getting a chance and breaking in. So it's the way things work out, Had I stayed at Preston, would I have got that chance? You never know, do you?
Who knows? And again, you spoke about your dad and the influence of your dad as a massive positive. Was there anyone else on the periphery of that in that transitional period from Preston to Stockport? Was it an agent? Was it friend, family? Who else helped? Was it just
friend? Definitely friends and family. I think I've got a strong family around me, and I think anyone that knows me, particularly me in the circle, and you'll be the same. I was the type to be sort of practicing on a field on a Friday night when you're on the same field as teenagers who are drinking in the corner. I used to have people following me doing laps and stuff. This is what it was. So I think I was destined to be a footballer in that sense. So I didn't really need too much sort of kicking up the bum, if you like. You need to get back on track. It was make or break basically. I'm going to go on trial and get a contract, or I'm going to walk away and get a job. It's that simple. And I knew what I wanted. I think the trial period is a tough period because you're with 22 other lads, 11v11. And you're scrapping for one place, maybe two if you're lucky, So I think I didn't really need any sort of kicking up the bum with that.
You had it yourself. It was innate.
To an extent, but I think my dad and my family played a big part in instilling that in me, and I think your love for football does as well. People don't go far wrong when they've got a passion for something. So
no, absolutely not, and I think maybe that's where some guys these days might get distracted with your social media and your the image of the footballer is maybe more powerful than actually kicking a ball these days. In some
a lot of people talk about people like Cristiano Ronaldo. He's had a blessed career, no real injuries. I don't think people realise how hard he works off the pitch proactively to keep himself injury free. All the proprioception work, all the that I'm now aware of because I'm doing a physio degree. All the stuff that he does. An hour before training, an hour after, the boring stuff that nobody wants to do. That allows him to play 50 games a season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. Incredible. So moving into the Stockport sort of journey, I know you suffered a big injury in that time there. The elation again of that roller coaster journey you talk about, you've gone from zero to hero again. Pro. I know I signed a pro as well. That was the best day of my life, and you do think you made it. And I didn't break it. There's another rejection, but to sign it and then break into the first team, how are you feeling?
Mate, I don't think there's anything like it, and I didn't really. I turned professional, and that in itself, you've got that status of being a professional footballer, and it's wicked, but you've not done anything yet. You've not broken to any first team. You're not an asset to the club yet. You're beginning to become an asset, but you're not one yet. I broke in about 6 months later. I think I played quite early when the squad was really depleted. I got a game in what was then the cup, the minor cup that all the lower league. I can't remember the sponsorship at the time. Yeah, that's the one. Johnson's Paint, that's what it was. And as soon as everyone, the real sort of big earners came back, I was back out. It gave me an insight as to where I was at in terms of the reserves. I was top of the pile, or there or thereabouts. And then I was kept out for 3 or 4 months. And then towards Christmas, just out of the blue, there's quite a lot of games cancelled, but I was set to start in each one, and it was cancelled, and I was set to start. So I knew it was coming. And I managed to get. I went down to. We played Scunthorpe 3-0 down. I was on the bench. Didn't expect to get on in a million years, and he threw me on. So it was like, geez, this is real. Yeah. So I ended up starting the next game against. I think it was Swindon. And then just I strung a run together of about, I think it was about 22 starts in the first team, which was wicked. 18-year-old in the first division. It was something to be proud of. And again, when you talk about emotions, you're up there. You're flying. You're a kid amongst men, mixing it. It's bringing your game on. And then I remember I got Young Player of the Year. I got a call up to Republic of Ireland, 19th. I went to Tenerife with the lads. Come back and got my legs snapped in pre-season, and it's sort of peaks and troughs.
So you got an international call up. You're playing first team. You've established yourself really at that point, I would say, to some extent. You're in. You're ready to go for the next season. Big injury.
Starting to
going on here again. What's happening now?
So again, coming back to the mental strength. I wanted what I wanted, and that was that. So it's just a case of digging in. It was a very lonely time, though. I didn't really see many of the first team other than at lunchtime.
Yeah,
you're missing out on all that. You're spending time away from the squad, especially the first 4 or 5 months.
That's the thing.
Before you even get it considered for getting back to training, I had to learn to walk again from scratch. A lot of crying, mate. Not gonna lie, quite a lot of crying. For crying with frustration. You're watching these lads who you were ahead of, really. You're watching them get regular game time in the first team, and the bottom line is it disturbs your progression and momentum. So, one of the things, you are rock bottom at times. One of the hardest times of your life, but it's, I suppose, the only way to look at it is the glass is always half full. It's moulding me to the person I am today. That's the only way you can look at it.
And I guess going on to what you're doing now, studying for your physiotherapy, do you think, can you draw back on that experience spent in a physio room, or is it a nightmare?
No, 1,000%, mate. You really can. That's what intrigued me to go into it. I later found out that the physiotherapy includes the brain and the lungs and all that. I thought it was just muscle injury. I thought I'll smash this. It definitely can, though. I spent 9, 10, 11 months rehabbing with Roger Wilde at Stockport, and although it was a hard time, it was also very beneficial in some ways. Because, for example, when I picked up other little niggles, I wouldn't really need anyone's help, but I knew how to manage it and stuff. And I just learned a lot. I learned a lot about my own character, and I learned a lot about how to handle the body, really.
Excellent. That's good insight into what might come next. So talk me through the rest of the footballing journey, because it's a great one. It's got plenty of ups and downs, but then obviously there's a big transition coming up for all the listeners, if there is any listeners.
Yeah, it was plenty of ups and downs, like you say, peaks and troughs. The reality of it is you're trying to earn your next contract, as you know. Yeah. You've got to make sacrifices. You might have to turn up and offer to play for nothing to prove myself. You might have to go and trial here, there and everywhere. I went to Hull City for a year. Had a bit of messing up my paperwork, which, if I'm being honest, it cost me quite a bit, because it basically... the time had elapsed, so I had to either play for the reserves or go back out on loan. Right. So I went back on loan to Stockport and ended up doing the rounds at a few more clubs. But as you're going to get into shortly, my real hidden sort of secret passion was boxing. Yeah.
So that was. How did that come about? I mean, it's a very, very interesting one. It's a transition not many make. I don't imagine.
No,
go on. Let's get into it.
It's a weird one, mate. It really is, because I wasn't an aggressive footballer.
That's what I'm thinking.
I was a poor tackler. I was a poor tackler, mate. It wasn't my game.
Technical, right? Technical player.
I was a ball player. I didn't have that natural instinct for tackling or winning balls or knowing where to be at the right time. I can count on this hand how many tackles I made in a 7-year career, mate. So, but I just thought I could always box. It's that simple, really. I'm not an aggressive person in the slightest. I've never been involved in any altercations outside the ring. But I always had this love for it and this sort of knack for it, if you like. And very interestingly, I was playing golf one day with my uncle and 2 fellas that my uncle knew. And one of them, it turns out, so my uncle's showing him a video of me on the bag. Yeah. And later on that evening, that same fella got my number off my uncle and phoned me and said, look, I work with the Hattons.
Oh, wow.
Ricky and Matthew Hatton. He said, I grew up with him in Hyde and Hattersley. I'm thinking of putting you forward to Matthew had just retired and become a trainer and a manager. He had a very successful career as well. So obviously when you hear those names, you think, Jesus, this is serious. So he said to me, I'm thinking of putting you forward. So Matt, let him have a look at you. I was like, are you crazy? Like, this is Matthew Hatton off the telly, like, Ricky Hatton off the telly. Anyway, cut a long story short, Matt phoned me and he arranged for Matt to have a look at me. And he sort of said, I'll be brutally honest with you. Come down on Wednesday night, have a little knock around on the pads and I'll tell you if I think you've got anything.
Yeah.
So we went down, did a few pads and stuff and did about an hour's work. And at the end of it, he just said, tell us about your amateur career. So I said, I didn't have any amateurs.
Yeah.
He said, not had any amateurs? I said, no. He said, you've got a lot of talent there, And he said, you like your boxing? I said, I love it, but I'm a full-time footballer. So he said, how would you like to come back in here and just let me have a further look at you, basically? Because he was training a pro at the time for his next pro fight. He said, come and mingle and get to know the place and stuff. So I started to do that. And after a while, he said to me, this is how I see things. He said, I've seen you're great on the pads, really fast, really sharp. You've got a natural love for it, coordination. But I've seen it all before, and you put someone like that in the ring when somebody hits them back and they go to pieces.
Yeah.
So I want to see what you like. So he arranged some sparring for me, some real sparring, and that went well. And maybe one more with a pro and whatnot. And he said to me at the end of it, look, I think we could do something here, And we had a discussion. I decided to retire from football and go down that route. And for me, my mind was made up. It was just a case of how I was going to do it financially.
Yeah.
Because professional boxing is very unstable money-wise. Yeah, you only get paid when you fight, so you have to consider the injured times and
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's some story. It is some story. So
it's crazy. Yeah.
Going back to like that, not really the mental side of this, but the motivation and how did that love transfer from football to boxing? And was there any points in your head where you were caught between the two, or was it just, do you know what? I've had enough of this. I've done it. I can walk away.
I don't even think it was the fact that I had enough. I think it was just, I did have, and I will always have a raw, burning passion for boxing. I'll watch anything on the TV. I'll find any excuse to hit a bag, and I could talk to you all day about it. Yeah. And I think with that in mind, when you get a chance with someone like Matthew Hatton, who's been there at the top level, things hit home. When he tells you you've got a bit of talent and stuff, things hit home. So for me, it's more a case of how I'm gonna finance it, and B, what do my family think? And at the time, it wasn't easy. Sort of, they're the same as me. It wasn't easy in the sense that, hang on a minute, you're going to turn your back on a career that served you for 7 years. You've been at it since you were a kid. But the sense they knew I could box as well, and I was mingling with pros with life, and sometimes getting the better of them and stuff. So I did have a lot of confidence in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's one of them. I just thought, I'd made money in football. I was on good money for my age.
Yeah.
I had like a deposit for a house, things like that. And I thought I'll just live on that for as long as it takes for me to break into title level.
Yeah.
There's a few things I didn't consider that maybe in hindsight I would have considered, but one of them, mate, I had the blinkers on, just went for it, and I don't regret it one bit.
That's excellent, and that's the main thing, right? You don't regret it.
Yeah, don't regret it.
Touch briefly on that boxing career then, because no defeats, no?
No, 5 out of 5, mate. But again, I'm proud of that. If I'm being honest, at the start we had plans to get to 20 out of 20, 25 out of 25. Yeah. You have plans to go all the way. 5 out of 5 is great, but it doesn't really tell the true story in the sense that I've had to take countless beatings behind the scenes to get up to that level. You get battered every day in sparring, every week in sparring off better lads who they bring in to teach you, basically.
The same as training in football, right?
It's like a youth team player going in the first team for the first time. Yeah, you'll get left for dead, and you just in the end you just come up to that speed. But 5 out of 5, some wicked nights.
Yeah. What's the biggest buzz, fight night or running out at Edgeley Park? What was the biggest buzz?
They're neck and neck. The only difference I would say is the fact that fight night's all you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, it's all you. So you're on your own in there. You take the hard times in there, and you reap the rewards of the good times. It's all me. It's all the work I've put in. Very rewarding knowing that I've put 10 weeks of grafting.
Absolutely.
Not seeing a soul for 10 weeks. I've been dieting. I've been training twice a day. So I think not many. There isn't many feelings better than banging a goal in at that level. But having your hand raised equals it.
Yeah. I think just touch on that, and it's a bit off topic, but you say that's all you, and then I'm thinking back to football sometimes, and even though it's a team sport, it is quite individual as well, because for me, I've noticed I've been sort of looking back.
Yeah.
And my better friends in football, bizarre, I don't know if it's a coincidence, seem to be goalkeepers. Now, I don't know whether that's because I was in direct competition with them for a place, or they were behind me, communicating with me as a centre-back and right-back all the time there, saying what to do. But I felt sometimes in football that I was very much on my own as well. Obviously, on the Saturday, you got your teammates around you, if you balls up, hopefully the centre-half's covering you, but I still felt it was a bit. So to go from football, where there is a team around you, but you're looking after yourself, right? We all know that's football has that. There's no friend in football, is the quote. Whether it's, I don't believe it, but
it's a career. It's a career.
That's the way it is, right? So then to transfer, do you think that? Not do you think? What helped you in boxing that you brought across from football? What skill sets from football did you bring into your boxing, which maybe
No, it's a good question. It's a good point you made. I think I totally agree. So just getting back to that goalkeeper thing, I think if I was a manager in football, I think that's where my budget would go. I think that's the most responsible and important position on the pitch. I think if you've got a good goalkeeper, you've got the fundamentals of a good side there. Yeah. That's my opinion. Yeah. If I was a manager, that's the way I would go.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I think it's more it's the personality trait. So I think taking that responsibility, like I said to you before, 18, 19, playing in the first division against Leeds United, Leicester, all those sort of big clubs away from home. Yeah. Taking that responsibility, you're not a rabbit in headlamps when you're having a fight with somebody else in front of a paid crowd, you know.
Yeah.
There's that. There's also the injuries. Yeah. It wasn't a shock to me because I picked up countless injuries in boxing. Wasn't a shock to me because I've done it. I just think that I agree what you're saying. I just think the fact that I've only got me to rely on. Is the bit I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's the way I wanted it, and I think it suited me more as a person. There've been many a times in football where I've had, say, a good game and we've been beat 3-0 and you tab with the same brush. On the flip side, I've had a bad game, we've won 4-0 and you're the best thing since sliced bread. So, you know, it's one of those things, I think, mate, my battery's going to go. If you just hang fire there, I'll run upstairs and stick it on charge.
All right, I'll put it on pause.
Yeah, no worries. Yep.
We're back in business.
Yeah, so I think that's what it is. I think it's carrying those responsibilities over, the things that I learned at such a young age. You're training with other good pros who maybe haven't had that experience before in front of a crowd, you know, and they boxed in the amateurs, which I've not had, but at the same time, basically the bottom line, money's on the line. So when money's on the line, things become a lot more serious, don't they?
Absolutely.
So I think that carryover is important.
Yeah, and I guess for me, just reading between the lines of what you just said, it's handling pressure. You knew how to handle pressure. Yeah. There's pressure on you on the football pitch, and there's probably far more pressure on you in the boxing ring. I wouldn't know, but I'm sure there's far more there. But you can adapt and you can handle it, and you know you had the pedigree to be able to, right? When you're stepping in there. Any more sort of rejections that you might have faced in football? Does that transfer? Is boxing a completely different entity, a different sport, or are you still facing rejections in boxing? I don't know how it works.
Rejections, there's plenty in football. You're going to get them to the day you retire, really, as you know, and it's part of it. Boxing, not so much rejections. I would say dealing with beatings and stuff. It's a similar thing. So if you, for example, once he'd taken me on that, we went down to a really reputable gym in Manchester. I'd never really done this before, so I didn't know what to expect. And he could see I was a bit shaky. And we're going down in his car, and he sort of said to me, like, you know, just a word of warning, this place is a bit of a bear pit. Yeah. They've got some really good kids, really, really, really good amateurs who are going to be good pros one day. And they've got a few good pros as well. So he said, because he could see I was shaking a bit and stuff. He said, no matter what these lads tell you they've done when you get there, because it is a bit of a bear pit, very old school gym, you'll be the new guy and all this. He said, you've got talent that you can't buy. He said, just do what I tell you to do and you'll be fine. And getting down there, I could see what he meant straight away. These lads are looking at it. It's like something out of a Rocky film, you know what I mean? These lads are looking at me and I'm waiting for this guy to turn up who I'm sparring. Never met him in my life before, you know, and I don't know what to expect. Anyway, this guy turns up with his missus. So he'd obviously probably been tipped off that I was a novice or whatever. Yeah. And he gave me the beating of his life, mate. Cut a long story short, he absolutely hammered me. And they're the sort of things you've got to get over up here. So I think, you know, I came home in Matthew Hatton's car And he sort of changed me, like, what's up? I said, I'm just disappointed. Because I've got these things going on in my head thinking, he don't want me anymore, he don't want to train me anymore, I'm not as good as I thought I was, I shouldn't have been beat off that lad, I shouldn't have been hammered. And he's saying, no, this is what it's like, week in, week out. You know, I brought you down here to tip your character box to see what you're made of. And he said, I promise you it'll get easier. You'll get better and it'll get easier. And that's exactly what happens. So I think that sort of stuff, in a sense, it's different to football, but it's the bottom line, all roads are going your way. And that's what it is, basically.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Would you say Matty Hatton acted as a mentor to you then through boxing? Because I know coaches like you, Glyn Salmon and Kevin Thelwell, who have acted almost as mentors, but then they can disappear through no choice of their own, I guess. The better. Did Matty Hatton, did he stay around through your journey? Did he mentor you?
Me and Matt now, me and Matt are really close mates now. Hear me okay, Paul?
It's just breaking up a little bit, but you're all good. Good. So yeah, just touch on it again with Matty Hatton. So did he act as a mentor? Where are you with your relationship now? He's stuck around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, whilst we were boxing, he'd taken me as pretty much a blank slate. You know, somebody who's got a bit of something and has got a raw passion, but no experience. Yeah. So he'd taken me under his wing. Everything I learned, 99.9%, everything I learned was down to him.
Brilliant.
He got me the right sparring at the right time. He was there for advice. We'd always speak. And to be honest, the bottom line, we've stayed really close mates now. Really close to the family. They're all lovely people. And the same with Glyn and Kev, like you were saying. They were, like I said, they could do that job anywhere in the country. It just so happens they went where they went and moved on and whatnot and went their separate ways. But at the time, I remember I stayed in touch with them both for a long while. Lost a bit of touch now, but I know I don't have to pick up the phone to ask anything. You know,
and that's stuff you can't really buy in sport, right? It's difficult to forge them relationships sometimes in sport. You do, especially if lines are kind of drawn and people need results. They need to win, but it's powerful to have those connections. And I think moving on from there, so how did your boxing career wind down? What happened with that?
I'm struggling to hear you here, mate. It's because I've come. Sorry, pal. It's not you. I think it's my end. Let me pause it a second, pal. I'll try and move somewhere. No disturbances now.
Here we go. We're flowing. So just touching on the end of your boxing career, 5 wins, no losses, no draws, nothing like that. You just 5 wins. How did it all sort of peter out? How did that transition out?
So, I mean, professional boxing is very different to what people think it is. So basically, there's a big gulf between pros trying to make the way and then pros with the likes of Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren.
Yeah.
So in order to get to that point, I mean, I had it explained to me by Matthew that the money's not great early on. Yeah. You've got your savings, whatever, you can do a bit of modelling and stuff like that, what you do, and get by, but it'll be worth it if you're willing to stick at it and get into title mix. The money, the sort of game-changing money and the level that you make a living out of it is in title mix. That's the bottom line. So obviously that's what we wanted. So we had a plan to box. We had a chat and we had a plan to box 6 on paper in an ideal world 6 times a year for the first 2 years. So every other month, nice and busy, because I had the fitness levels to do that. Yeah. I never really considered at that time that you got no money coming in when you're injured. I withdrew from two what should have been 2 debuts before having my actual debut through bad luck. Broke my hand in one sparring, tore my shoulder in the next one, and I didn't end up having my debut. So I took my own debut on 3.5 weeks notice, which is
not a lot.
It's one of them. It's a risk, in boxing. Just to get a fight under my belt, really, because there'd been a bit of press around me and stuff. So I thought I need to fight soon. And throughout the way, that's the way the journey was, really. It was stop, start, injuries, back, stronger fight together, stop, start, back again. And although I was winning, I was only getting older. So panic station started to set in, and basically a couple of things happened with the show that I should have been on. The show was pulled for whatever reason. and because it's a ticket selling sort of ticket-based business, you've got to then go around refunding people. It's just a nightmare from start to finish on the business side. The sports side is fantastic. The side where I was working with Matt every day was brilliant. We've got a fantastic relationship. It's just the business side. It lets the sport down. I know so many fighters where they've got better records than me, 14-0, 15-0, ready to knock on the door for a big title and just can't afford to box. It's that simple.
Shame, man.
Yeah, so I made this decision. I'm a man who likes a sure thing, and I basically felt as though, in a nutshell, I'd stuck my future on red on a roulette table. See what happens. Yeah. It's not my way. It doesn't come natural to me.
Yeah.
So I made the choice to had a big long chat with Matt. Explained quite a few sort of things, and basically he'd been there with me. He knew all this. He knew everything I was saying, and I decided to walk away, at least for then, and start a degree. Something with a bit more. There's a little bit more substantial and solid. And I didn't want to get beyond 30 and think I've got, like you were saying before about the football, I've got nothing behind me. I've missed that university period because I was in football.
Yeah.
So that was the route I chose.
Brilliant.
And we're just coming up to the end of that degree now.
Excellent. How have you found that? How have you found the transition, I guess, from being... So for me, when I'm talking to many people in the game, a few lads have done degrees alongside playing still. You've come out of 2 professional sports and into a university environment. How's that with your identity? So do you still feel... I've spoken with some guys who've said, the minute I came out of football, I was no one. I didn't even want to go to family parties. I think myself, knowing you and just having our chat now, you'd be as proud as with the degree when you get it as you will be of anything previous in sport.
Yeah, no,
Proud man.
I can understand why people do think that, but at the end of the day, I'm of this mindset that literally, I take what I need from professional football, move on to the next chapter. Take what I need from professional boxing, move on to this chapter, and it'll be the same till the day I die. I think that's the way you can only really move forward. I think if you dwell, it's one of them things. I suppose, like you said before, you can extract from one experience, good or bad, positive or negative. You can extract what you need, move forward, add it to what you've already learned.
Yeah,
and it's all part of learning and developing.
Definitely. And I think for me, when I was a student, I don't know if you're the same now, but I had this competitive streak in me that I was going to get best in class. And I was going to work damn hard, whatever I did. Now, did I have the university experience that all my mates did at 18 to 21? No, definitely not.
Yeah.
But has it served me well now? Are you the same? Are you the same mindset that you're so focused because of everything you've done in the past that it's almost tunnel vision to do the best you possibly can? I'm sure you put yourself out there into positions that maybe the younger guys wouldn't because of your experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I have to try and wrestle myself to think, it's only me against me now. I don't have to be that way anymore.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to get out of that habit. I do want to be the best, and in the end, you are a bit like peed off when somebody does better, and you think, hang on a minute, I put a bit more work in there. But it's not me against them anymore. It's me trying to get my degree. But I can 100% understand why you think that way, because I do too. It's one of those things.
That's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, what about the modelling, mate? We'll have to touch on it while we're here. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't go with boxing. I know that much.
Oh, I bet not.
Yeah, modelled for about 7-8 years now. Nice. Modelled for about 7-8 years. I first went with an agency when I was 22, 23. Yeah. Changed agencies about 4 years ago. And I've done a nice array of stuff over the years, acting as well, commercials, soaps, things like that. Yeah, it's something I started to do alongside the back end of footy, and then as it got more serious, I started to do it more and more. It was then never a full-time thing because of sport, but it was me earner then,
How did that fit in both worlds? In the football world, were you getting ribbed in the changing room? Did you keep it quiet? And again, I don't know what boxing's like in the inner circle, but I'm sure in boxing you had a bit of a reputation as a pretty boy, or what? How does that work?
Yeah, the football one was one of them. I only really modelled for my final year in football. That's when I started. It was a little bit of an overlap, but it wasn't. I was making my way basically in the modelling world. Boxing very different. I remember I had my debut and I had apart from the result, it was a nightmare of a night. Yeah. Apart from the result, great result that I won, but I got a terrible cut. Got butted early on in the fight. Split my eye wide open. 11 stitches. I then went for a Lloyd's Pharmacy, the Chase.
Yeah.
The Chase, sponsored by Lloyd's Pharmacy. I went for a big advert. I got an audition for a big advert with 11 stitches in my eye. And luckily, they'd just come out, so I got away with it to an extent. I actually ended up getting the job, but those are the sort of things it could cost you money in that sense, The amount of times that I've turned up to a client, whether it be Foot Asylum or Drome or whoever, and I thought to myself, I'm fighting in 2 weeks. I'm really light. I'm stone lighter. These guys are going to think like he doesn't look anything like his pictures.
Yeah.
What they booked me off my portfolio. I'm really light. I look like I've got a week to live, basically. So it does affect you in that sense. But the pretty boy thing, I mean, I don't know. It's just another. It's a job. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'd probably a bit of fire for my opponents. They probably thought I don't want to get beat by a model. You know what I mean?
I'm lucky at that. That's it. That's
yeah. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I had to throw that in there. And then, obviously, where you are now. So, physiotherapy degree coming to an end. What are your aspirations moving forward?
So, at the moment, I've got a sports massage business. I've had it for about 2 years. Got a nice client base. It's really good. I've always said along the way, degrees are long degrees, 4 years. So, I've said along the way, I don't really want to make any rash decisions about what I want to do. Naturally, it would probably appear to most people would assume I'm going to football, but we know how fickle that can be, and we know that a manager can be sacked and all the staff can be sacked immediately. I don't want to make any assumptions as I've had a taste of everything, all the aspects of physio that there is to taste. It'd be nice to be in football. It'd be really good. How doable that is and finding a club that's relatively close to home, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just cross that bridge. I've got a year to go in the degree. I think see what happens over the next 6 months, see what opportunities open up, and then take it from there.
Brilliant. I think that just sums up the whole conversation, mate. What a good bloke you are, balanced.
Thanks, mate.
You got everything together, and I think that's for me what I'm trying to inspire these kids are. You're the role model, mate. You've got it all there.
Yeah. Got to look forward, mate. That's the only way.
This is the thing, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of get let down by the clubs or whatever it might be. Just a quick one to touch on, just to finish, closing statement. The PFA have helped me. I know we mentioned it off camera before.
Yeah.
Have they funded your degree and that type of thing? Would you recommend getting in touch with them for those lads who get released? And
yeah. So what happened with the PFA? I mean, they've been marvellous. So again, it's a tough one for pro footballers. We come across to the people in everyday jobs. We come across as the privileged ones, and when we are to some extent, we're in a position of privilege where we're at the in that few percent, if you like. But there is a flip side to that coin, and that is, as you know and I know, you're not equipped to do anything else. So you get let go, or even if you have a good career and you come to 30, you've still missed those college days, those uni days. The PFA are there to sort of guide you through for the next phase of your life, and that's exactly what they did for me. Osher Williams, top man. Yeah. Really helpful at short notice. I had a bit of a panic with the boxing, and he got me an interview. He equipped me, prepared me for an interview to get into Salford Uni within, I think it was a matter of weeks. And I think going back to school and stuff like that, because I worked so hard in school and I got a decent grades and stuff like that, it allowed me a bit more leeway. They wasn't looking at a footballer that never gave a thought about school. They were looking at somebody who did his best in everything he did. So. I think getting back to the PFA, that's what they're there for. They created that avenue, and then it was up to me then to go and get the place and stuff like that. But big part of it, you can't be told as a pro coming through or a young YT, you can't be told you think you're going to be the next best thing. Yeah. And you've got every right to believe that, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with you developing a safety net for yourself.
Absolutely, and I think that's where I'm trying to sort of fit in is developing that skill set out of footballers like myself. Where I was to just harness that ability of the cliches like we said off camera as well, perseverance, dedication, will to win, competitive streak. Just see that transfers everywhere else and utilise the services. Myself, the PFA, there's plenty of people out there to help and want to help.
I can't stress how important it is for young pros and scholars to take note of that, because it can all end in a tackle. So. You need to be aware, and they need another avenue to go down. They absolutely need it.
I think it's as you find sort of testament of that. It's having the confidence and the foresight to see it, and the belief in yourself. I don't.
And the proactive mentality as well. Yeah,
never wavered. Right, it's brilliant. Right, mate. I'm going to end the recording now. So thank you very much. Inspiring.
My pleasure, mate.
Inspiring stuff, and I'm sure plenty of people some people will watch and listen. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, no.
There we go.